everybody, welcome to the Lowell Show, only on northvolume.com. Today's our 26th show, and we have Rushad Eggleston. And is it Eggleston or Eggleston?
Eggleston.
Eggleston, my bad. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
So I was really excited that I got to go see your show last night at the Waterhole. And it was brought to my attention by my sister and her bandmates, who were super excited to come up and see you. And I checked out a bunch of your stuff. Where do you come from? Like, that's a loaded question, but answer it as you will.
The woods of California.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I was born in, Big Sur.
I just went through Big Sur 3 weeks ago for the first time in my entire life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice. It's a pretty magical zone.
Yeah.
But I'm more from the region of like in between Big Sur and Carmel, where so Big Sur gets like totally wild, and towards Carmel the woods get a little bit more friendly, kind of elfin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and there's some places out there that are just like, I mean, you see them and you don't believe that it's actually on the earth. And well, it just gives you a lot more respect for the world and just the fact that it has those type of zones in it, like super twisted trees that go all over the place and little mini mountains, and it looks like a little pirate forest and stuff.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we went out there, because my girlfriend had never been to California at all, and I had never been through Big Sur, that whole stretch down one. So we started north, and we drove basically down to San Diego. We basically started north of Sacramento, and we took a week and like hit everything. But Big Sur that's an amazing place to be from, man.
Yes, very fluffy indeed.
And I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like, and that's what I love about California, just with the elevation differences, like where you'll have like desert on the top, and then you have that spot where the redwoods are, and then it's almost like the forests around here, like very elfin and like.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, plus, yeah, the zone I'm from has a lot of different type of ecosystems or environments or whatever you would call it. Over there, you got like madrone forests and open valleys and meadows, and then you have like pine forests, and then ponderosa pine forests, and all the different kinds of oak trees, and then redwood forests, and then a bunch of miles of poison oak and manzanita brush that's very intense to go through.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But rewarding.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And so you grew up out there?
Yeah.
Classically trained with the cello?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Not to the extent that some people are. You know, I feel like when they say classically trained, what they mean is somebody who only studied classical music and was kind of brought up very strictly with that.
Okay.
And that was kind of like one stream of knowledge especially from the time I was 3 till 12, it was only classical music. And then when I was 12, I discovered, I think the first thing was somebody gave my brother a Nirvana tape for his birthday. And so then I listened to that and got into AC/DC and Metallica and Guns N' Roses and all the stuff that was, rock and roll at the time. And then I picked up the guitar and then kind of totally rebelled and didn't play the cello for a couple years. So then I discovered the joy of music on my own. And then I went back consciously on my own volition into studying classical music, because I realized that I loved all music and I wanted to just know as much as I could about music theory and everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I say class. I mean, I think a lot of musicians like start off that way. It's like, even if it's in school, this is the way you're being taught to play this instrument, and then you kind of interpret it how you want to take it and where you want to go with it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and I quit classical music formally, like altogether, while I was at like a very kind of intense, prestigious music festival called the Aspen Music Festival. I was studying there, and that's where a bunch of classical musicians from all over the world and the country go to get their ass kicked basically for like all summer and get a lot better. But I was done with that. So it was nice to break away. But then again, it wasn't as much of a break as it would have been if I was like some of these people I know that have only ever read music and they're like, I'm going to improvise for the first time. Oh my God. It's like this big deal. But like, no, I was like born to jam. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah. And after watching your show and some performances, I absolutely agree. I mean, that was one of the things that caught my attention was that, and you make jokes about it on stage. I mean, they're not jokes, but the people laugh. Is like you're there to like do what you think is going to be fun and exciting, and like I feel like the crowd is just on your trip, dude. Like where you're taking them is where you're going, and I think from a musician standpoint, that's really hard because I think that's just scary for a lot of musicians to think about, and I think a lot of times, depending on the music, the crowd doesn't necessarily want that either. But you're just like, we're here in this space. And like, I'm going. And, you know, it was just, even when you were like trying to end the show, you weren't trying to end the show. You were literally like, I will sit here and play all night. I hope you all know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it was very clear that, you know, you just, you know, I feel like if you were by yourself, you would have done the same thing last night.
Yeah, pretty much. I
know what I
mean,
mean?
you know, with the addition of, it's kind of like amplified self. On the stage, it to me is a personality amplifier, and it takes the parts of you that you like to highlight and makes them louder and bigger. Because you get the fuel. You know, I feel like the performance machine is run on the fuel of appreciation and an audience that's at least curious, you know? So everyone falls somewhere on the spectrum between total crowd pleasing and total just self pleasing or idea pleasing. Like, I actually have a lot of respect for the people that can go up there and play some really out stuff like atonal music or something, and they just don't care that most of the people aren't going to get it. I still have this part of me where I really like to like sell it, even though I'm hell-bent on doing my own thing, but I do like to make people trust me enough to come on this trip with me, kind of. I call it a cello-shaped spaceship, you know what I mean, that I'm captaining. And so I got to just get everybody's trust that I'm a good enough captain for them to just follow me for a couple hours. And then what's really going to happen is just going to hear some weird stuff and,
Yeah,
you know.
you go home and eat some pizza and go to bed.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
And you love saying fluffy.
I do like saying fluffy. I have become very addicted to it. I think that you got to have sayings that you say to yourself over and over again to hype yourself up, you know? Like some people are like nice or like right. Some, like I know like a lot of business people that are like right, and they'll be telling you something, you know, I mean the history of beards, right, is like this thing that started in like 1730, right, with the invention of scissors and right, and then, you know, they throw right in there a lot, or some people throw in nice or like good. But to me, fluffy accomplishes everything that I'm trying to have in a repeatable word. You know, the more times I say fluffy in a day, the better a day it probably is.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I absolutely appreciate that. Like me and some of my friends, Jamie Armstrong, it's just like we've made up so many words that have become adjectives in our lives and that other people have caught on to that you say all the time, and people haven't heard it. They're like, what does that mean? It's like, sorry, that's just the word that I say. It's my fluffy. I got different fluffies too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, language is a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, I would say from my perspective, I mean, you know your instrument and you say we on stage a lot, I noticed. And my question was, I was like, are you talking about you and your cello? Are you talking about your different personalities? Like, what does we mean for you?
Did I say we?
You said we last night 10 times.
Wow.
Like this is not me performing, we are performing, but it's just you on stage. So I was really interested to know, you know, who is we?
Well, yeah, I have definitely me and the cello, first of all.
And your cello's name is?
Well, it used to be El Cello Cabra del Norforbulones, and then for a long time it wanted a shortenable version of the name. So recently it told me that its name now wanted to be Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. It's just you and Jesus on stage.
Yeah, it's just me and Jesus up there.
I love that because there's so many different ways you can go with that.
Yeah, you could. But
so is that what you're talking about? Is it you and Jesus on stage? We?
Yeah, but then I got the kazoo too, and I have names for all the alter egos, and then the bow, Bob Bogans, and then my voice, whose name is Arnold Plifferman. I didn't make that up, by the way. It told me that its name was Arnold Plifferman, and it kind of sounds about right because it's like a weird voice that's like kind of runty, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of runty and a knave. Anyways, yeah, so it's like Arnold Plifferman on the vocals, Christina Garibaldi on the imaginary drums, Boinkabout Bunkners on the imaginary bass, and Bob Bogans on the bow, and then Thobus Thwathner on the kazoos.
And that's who we are.
That's who we are, yeah, because it's, trying to make a lot of sound up there, so it's like a little band or an orchestra or
So
something.
you're never alone.
Don't feel alone up there ever. No.
Is it always all of you in the car together as well, or when you get off stage, do they have their own vehicles that they travel from show to show in?
Yeah, not on. They travel around on a different plane. So I'm lucky if I get visited by them when I'm on the road, because they're like, we'll leave you to doing your like beastly earth duties of like sitting in a car with like rolling wheels to get from one place to another, just sitting there with your foot on the gas pedal for miles and miles. If you think about it from a futuristic perspective, it makes no sense, and it's totally Stone Age what we do.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you're just sitting there waiting, doing nothing. Like, why aren't you already there? Why can't you just be there?
It's a waste of time.
So boom, it is. I mean, it's an opportunity for writing songs. I've written a lot of numbers in the car, of course.
And of course, there's beautiful things to see on the road as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was what my whole vacation in California was. We just wanted to drive and see, because it's so different. That you know, it's like, so there is that chance. But
yeah, I know. After all the driving I've done on tour, I still like at home will go on drives for fun sometimes, just because it's a good way to chill out and let the scenery wash by you. I mean, it's kind of like watching TV, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking
Except
through a
it's
screen
a
and,
little
like,
more interesting.
Yeah.
A little more fulfilling. Well, why don't we do a song? I don't know. I mean, it's up to you, man. Dealer's choice. Whatever you want to play.
Okay. Here's the cello. We got to get some of the notes out of it first. I'll play one of my nonsense songs. Well, nonsense in that it doesn't make linear sense. It makes emotional sense, maybe vertical sense rather than horizontal sense, you know? And the chorus is a list. It says, Egermork, Benesoth, Griminix, Fabdehoth, Spermanoth, Gramuna, Ilguox, Hactoja. And that's the punchline, Hactoja, you know. Anyways, so I'll do it on a bed of a lot of notes. Machupi, amnoti, amnoeti, gritty, kopobia, entoska, entogunti, punti, fa, oof, eek, mujumi, glafro, hecking, hoochespi, yule, fat, unglomar, vempo, gritty, interbark, Egermork, Benesoth, Griminix, Fabdehoth, Spermanoth, Gramuna, Ilguox, Hactoja. Phil, strip, hypnobite, crumping, bumping, lip, the right, rar, eat, vando, stay, funto, dunto, timdo, day, cow, cragging out, howgin, ipney, chipney, foul, ergno, stop, binto, ha, binto, into, ginto, rye, Egermark, Benesoth, Griminix, Fabdehoth, Spermanoth, Gramuna, Ilguox, Hactoja. Fox, Bimno Fox, Organ, Sox, Black, Bark, Vepto, Heart, Vepto, Crypto, Guard, Machu V, Amno D, Amno, Degree, Couple, Bia, Ento Star, Ento Bunti, Funti, Vi, Egermore, Benesoth, Griminix, Fabdehoth, Spermanoth, Gramuna, Ilguox, Hactoja.
Yeah, that was great. That was awesome.
Thor Knocks.
Oh, nice. I was going to ask about Thor Knocks, actually, because you had mentioned that last night at the show, and I want to know more about Thor Knocks and what is Thor Knocks?
Well, I'm saying Thor Knocks with the T-H-A-R.
Oh, Thor Knocks.
Yeah, with
Okay,
the T-H-A-R-N-O-X, and it's just my alternative to saying thank you.
Okay.
It actually, to me, means more than thank you because I don't know, it has a personal flair. It seems more authentic.
Yeah. Which I get. Yeah. Everybody says thank you.
Yeah. So I've started.
I feel like it's lost its gusto.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those invisible words that you read it or hear it and you don't really see it or hear it. So at least Thor Knocks, it makes you think. And then it has enough in common with thank you or like THX, the abbreviation, or like thanks, kind of to maybe light up the part of your brain that feels welcome.
And it's also the inflection of the word you use. I think it's
Thor
and
Knocks.
like I said exactly, and
Yeah.
it's like kind of like the words that me and my friends have kind of made up. It can cover. It's the same word that can mean a lot of different things, and it all depends on inflection.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And when you say it, in the conversation,
Context
it's great.
and inflection. Exactly. You can sneak a lot of nonsense words in there using those methods,
But like people still, can understand what you meant. I feel like that's the best part about making up words.
Yeah, exactly. If you're like looking for a particular thing that your friend kind of knows that you're looking for, and you ask them for it, and you're like, "Do you have the snibbage?" And I say snibbage all the time, and people just basically get it. Like a snibbage is like a small item that could be gotten, pretty much.
Small item that can be gotten.
Bring forth the snibbage.
Bring forth the snibbage. I was blown away with. Well, the crowd last night, clearly some of them knew you because you had been there before you performed at the Pendragon.
That's right.
Up right there, up in Saranac Lake. And so I was thinking, like, there were people there that were so excited. I didn't know what to expect. Like, I came in and all the chairs were there. And it was a lot of the folks that I know from up there that aren't usually at the Waterhole for shows.
Oh, yeah.
And we were kind of like, okay, we kind of like reset. I didn't really know what the crowd was going to be. They were so stoked that you were there.
Wow.
And I mean... Is that what I'm wondering is, you travel around all over the place and you do these shows. Do you go to a lot of places? You must go to a lot of places where people know who you are and they're expecting something, but you must go to a lot of places like any musician where maybe you're on a bill and people haven't seen you before. They don't know quite what to expect.
Yeah, there's some of that. There's some of both, really.
Right. Yeah.
Because, well, especially like at a festival that I haven't played before. There's usually, most people that haven't seen me or whatever. But I guess because of YouTube and stuff and because of my followers, like there's always a core of like, 10 to 15 people at most shows I play that are like really ready to be there. And sometimes that just having those power people in the audience being stoked and being super stoked really helps everybody else like loosen up and know that it's all right.
Right.
Unless they're like really weird and like sometimes you get those people that just, I don't know, they come up and try to touch you all weird and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not good. And I mean, I guess that was my kind of where I was going with this was like, and not to bring it down, but I mean, have you played shows where people are like, what is this dude doing? Like, I mean, because when you grab your instrument and you play it, you're clearly a master and at your instrument, and it's undeniable that you know how to play that instrument incredibly well. And I feel like if you like music or you're into music, you're gonna at least grasp onto that. But are some people like, dude, like, what are these words you're making up? Is there any pushback in the audience ever? Have you ever had an experience like that? I'm sure you have.
For sure. Yeah. A lot of times, there's some shows where like a good 10 or 15 people will leave before 20 minutes has gone by. They're just like, I can't handle this right now or whatever. And that's all good. I like to tell people that if they don't like the words, just like listen to the cello playing underneath there, because that's one thing that I've been consciously trying to do in the last few years is like, no matter what's going on in the vocals, to make the cello interesting by having its own melody and its own like strength in what it's doing, rather than just being completely just supportive and background to the vocal.
Absolutely.
So they're two equal streams of music coming at you that you can check out. And so that's cool. And it definitely helps some of those people. I guess some of the older, more conservatively minded people, they are always suspicious of something new and something not in the genre that they're familiar with. It helps them when they see that I can play,
Right.
For some reason, that is one of the things that builds up trust. So you'll see, like last night, I go back and forth between playing weird stuff and then come back and give a little bit of instrumental, so that the people are like still there,
Right.
kind of.
Yeah. And like you said, you are, you are definitely taking people on this voyage with you for the amount of time that they're there. But you also were, like you said, you want to make sure that, like you were asking people, what songs do you want me to play that I haven't played? Because I want to make sure to play those greats that everybody knows. And people are yelling stuff out, and you're even trying to like close the show, and somebody yelled out another song. You're like, well, I got to play it because I want to make sure that you're happy. And I mean, I think it's great. You're trying to make everybody happy, but you're also doing what you want to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, the songs that people request of mine aren't like some. They're songs to be proud of. Like, at least me, in my view of a career and stuff, like, rather than people being like, saying like, "Hey man, are you gonna play Break My Heart all over again?" Instead of some weird cheesy stuff like that, they're like, "Are you gonna play I Peed on a Bird tonight?" Or "Are you gonna play Fluffy Arabian Cat Disease?" Or The Eternal Rabbit Society? Or Bob Jumped Over the Fence? Or The Goat God? Like the songs that are people know of mine are like pretty weird, and it makes me happy sometimes to hook them up, with those. I don't like the idea of having to be beholden to some, pre-established notion of who you are. I like to go up there and basically do my thing. I don't like, but when you have a long show, there's plenty of time to play I Peed on a Bird if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. It's the same thing with with my band. We've been playing for about 15 years, so there's those old hits that people want to hear, but we're kind of like, we've played them so much that we just don't want to play them anymore.
Yeah. We
do. We love them and we understand, but then I also have 6 guys that all have to agree upon what we want to do.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, it's easier, well, I'm not actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm assuming it's easier when it's you and your other crew on stage. But it's kind of like, you got to play it. It's like, well, do we have to do anything? We'll get into that conversation with each other.
Yeah.
Like, well, why do we have to do anything? Yeah. Well, it's like, because they want to come. They came and they paid the money, and there's a few songs that people really, really want to hear.
Yeah,
and it's like, do you tell them like, sorry, next time? And especially with us now, we stop playing constantly. We do like 3 or 4 shows a year. Mm-hmm. So it's even more so when we do those shows, people like, these are the songs they want to hear.
Yeah. I mean, when you go see a band, you know how it is. Like, I mean, you're stoked when they play something that you recognize, that you already liked, because a lot of bands have new stuff that, isn't as good as their old stuff, or at least that's what the people think.
Yeah, that drives me crazy.
It's solo. It's nice because I can play it in any key. I can change the key depending on how it's feeling or the feel. I could play it totally slow, or I could totally play it tropical, or like play it way fast, or not play all of it, just play a little bit of it. Sometimes I do that.
Yeah, I was noticing that last night. You'd like start a song and you like give the feeling, or I love this. You were like, I'm not gonna play this song tonight, and then you start playing the song, and then you like stop like a few measures in. You're like, I'm not gonna play that song. Well, you did a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so many ways to come at it, especially when you're by yourself, and that is the thing that I delight in. You can play half a song, or you can play one part of a song for a long ass time, or you can do whatever you want, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing in the world. The easy thing to do is to do what's been done and do what is standard. Like, the standard thing is to play a song and then wait for people to clap and then play the next song. Mm-hmm. But to have like a general just like weird smear of color and see it like that, rather than like this song and that song. And of course I do plenty of like this song and that song, but I like messing with it, to see how you can push and pull the standard format of performance and change it into something more personal and flexible and squishy and fluffy. Yeah.
And that's the thing too that I loved about it was, it is that it's every, I don't know. So I've seen so many musicians that try to get the crowd involved, and it almost becomes obnoxious.
Yeah.
And then there's people that just like almost like the crowd's not even there.
Yeah.
And I've seen some stuff online, but like last night, I was really excited to go to the show before we met and talked about this, because it was really great. There was nothing obnoxious about it. Like, it was you I feel like you you integrated the crowd and you brought them in without being too pushy about it. And it's like that show, you're never playing that show again. Like, and is that like that for most of your shows? Like that show is a unique show for those people that are there, and that's never going to be recreated. That's how I feel.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, you know,
Right, songs here and there.
On any given tour, it's like I have the songs that are kind of like on the top of my personal charts or the Land of Sneth's charts for that time. Like this tour, it's like, well, yeah, like Fractal Broccoli and Byron Ussy Man and those type of songs. I tend to play those every night because they're the ones that I'm excited about playing, where I get the most delight out of playing, and you know, and because of that, because I'm feeling them, I can put them over in a way that's going to give the audience that hit of good vibes, and but in the interim, all the improvisations and the order of the songs and yeah, and sometimes some random songs out of nowhere or whatever. Yes, it's very different from night to night. Some people come to like 3 or 4 shows and, you know, in a row, and then they'll be like, wow, it's very different every time.
Right, which I love. And it's, yeah.
Because you're dealing with a different type of audience, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if you got a bunch of hippies there, it's going to be different than playing for a bunch of like old people or a bunch of little kids or a bunch of like straight-laced looking people or whatever. I mean, it just always changes.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like that's a thing that I see like musicians, or I guess we in my experience, you know, our band has battled with is like, I feel like you got to play to the crowd a little bit. You know, you got to look at the crowd. It's hard to write a set list, you know, 2 days before you see the crowd you're going to play for.
Exactly, that's a really good point.
You know, and we do that now because now we have to practice because we're only playing 3 or 4 shows a year.
Yeah.
So it's like we're right, but we also kind of know who's going to be at the show because it's everybody that loves us. So it's, but when you're trying to do set lists when you're on the road, I feel like it doesn't always work. Or a lot of times I would try to do a set list when the opener was playing because I'm watching the crowd and I'm seeing who's there and what they might enjoy. You know, I don't know. That's just,
and the order. It's tough too because, you know, if you have a preset order already, then you might be not disabling yourself from being able to take advantage of reading the crowd and seeing like, oh,
Absolutely.
and these people need a slow downer for a second,
Yeah.
or they, you know, or they need a lot of energy, a lot like real quick for a long time.
Yeah.
And then if you'd programmed like 2 slow songs, like 4 songs into the set, you'd be kind of bummed with yourself. And then you just have to stick to it. And then you get farther away from your own performance. You get disconnected from it because you're being more faithful to an idea than you are to the actual experience. So.
Yeah, you talked a little bit last night about your faith and your ideas. What do you consider your faith to be?
Mainly I believe in infinity, and apparently that's a lot of stuff. That's everything that could ever be and could ever and will be. And because of that, I feel like it's maybe not the most popular thing to think, but I think that if you believe in infinity, you can believe in God and know God. Because like it's just in our binary minds, we're like, it's either this or it's that. You know what I mean? Like, why can't there be both?
Yeah.
Infinity is huge, and it invented everything that we ever knew in whatever way it invents or doesn't invent. It invented it and didn't invent it. It's really weird. And it's not particularly the most comforting thing to believe in all the time because there's a very chaotic aspect of it. But I also feel that some part of infinity has some type of personalizing aspect where you can kind of talk to it a little bit, or it'll at least hook you up with some type of comforting vibes. Otherwise, where would people be getting all these ideas for years about this God and this entity, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe in the woodland fairy entities. I believe in the fae people.
Well, you definitely came from a place that I could only imagine. You know what I mean? I thought of that as a child, even here in the Adirondacks. I don't know how much of the mountains you really got to see, you know, driving through them, but
They look pretty mystical.
they absolutely are incredibly mystical. And, you know, I grew up here in this city. It's not a big city, but, you know, you go 10 miles outside and you're like right in those woods.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm not, I love my parents and I love, what I've given, but it's like literally you can just go a few miles and you're in this mystical place that's just totally different. And even as a child, I remember visiting these places and just walking around, just looking for things that I expected to be there, mystical beings or whatever. And I still do that. And that was the first time I saw the redwoods, which wasn't that long ago. It was only a few years ago. I thought that same thing because it reminded me of our forests, just gigantic. Like I was just waiting for, and I'm an adult, I understand, you know what I mean? But I was like waiting for a dinosaur to walk because they're massive trees.
Yeah.
It's like instead of walking over twigs, you're walking over twigs this big.
Yeah.
Or like you were saying, there's a tree with a branch on it, and there's an entire tree this big growing off of that branch.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's incredibly mystical, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's amazing out there, and the cliffs too. I mean, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, the cliffs are nice. It's nice to have a forest on the edge of the sea. That's a really cool thing.
Absolutely, and it's quite the sea too.
Yeah.
And so now that I know where you're from, that song "Pee on a Bird."
Yeah.
Is there?
That was up north in like Mendocino.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
And it was a true story for sure.
You peed on a bird?
I did. I didn't mean to. I mean, I wasn't
obviously.
trying to, but when you're standing on a cliff and peeing because it's fun as a dude, just watch it kind of just like fly off and like you feel powerful because you're like, I'm making this that goeth so far, and then I watched it go so far as to hit a bird in the head.
What'd the bird do?
It was kind of out of there pretty quick and over it. It was like drying its wings on the rock, in the morning sun, and then it felt this unwelcome stream of wetness from above, and it was out of there.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that's a normal bird reaction.
Yeah. I think the bird probably got high, too. I mean, just because it was delightful.
Yeah, and chances are that was the last time that bird got peed on by a human being.
Yeah, it wasn't going to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Or maybe it enjoyed it so much that it's been seeking it out ever
since. Totally.
Just
like flying around cliffs looking for dudes peeing off cliffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know where that path you sent that bird on.
Yeah, and it's weird. I mean, it's funny because like in another sense, besides "I Peed on a Bird" being my most famous song, there was another song that kind of eclipsed it in the online fame, which is called "I Love Tofu." I don't know if you saw that, but I put a fork on my bow and I was singing about tofu and spearing the tofu with the fork and then bringing it back while bowing the whole time and then eating it real quick and then going playing more songs and eating more tofu. So millions of people saw that, and it's about to be on like national public TV in Japan and stuff, and like so like I've become kind of like a vegan spokesperson almost, and not a spokesperson, but it's just like a lot of people that follow me online now follow me because of that song and because of like the vegan. They're like, oh, it's a vegan cello player, right on. And so I feel weird about the "I Peed on a Bird" song because it's like,
right.
I don't know if PETA group would be stoked on me singing about peeing on a bird, but it wasn't like cruelty to animals. It was just, it happened. If they bothered to listen,
you weren't aiming for the bird.
Yeah, no one's ever really said anything, so I'm not really worried about it. It's just a funny dichotomy,
Yeah, it is so I missed Fractal Broccoli last night, and and because I saw, so the other thing that you did was you have a categories list.
Oh, yeah.
That you throw out to the audience, and it's a bunch of random categories, and on there was veganisticity?
Yeah, something like that. I think I called it veganity.
Veganity, okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like somebody must call, was that when you did Fractal Broccoli?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And the conversation in the crowd was so funny, at least it was like, my friend Chris was like, he seemed pretty passionate about that. I'm pretty sure he's definitely a vegan,
Oh, yeah.
And so we were like, I don't know. It was like a joke? And I'm like, he was like, I'm pretty sure that's 100%.
Yeah. No, it's for real. I mean, because, in the song I talk about, never eating flesh again and rather eating wood. And then usually at that point, if there is any wood around, I like to walk and gnaw on the actual wood. And, man, I really chewed the heck out of some wood in Mariposa the other day.
Was it good tasting wood?
Yeah, wood is always good.
That's good.
It's when it's splintery, it's a little bit weird to just handle in your mouth, figure it out. I like to tuck it under my lip, and then an hour or so later, I like show people that I still got it, and they're like, "Whoa, why did you keep that wood in your mouth for the whole time?"
Gonna soften it up.
Yeah,
Seems like it makes sense.
it's comforting, you know.
Yeah.
So I used to dip tobacco, and it's nice to have something else that isn't tobacco to get in your lip and just hold it there and pretend that it's giving you some powers. The ancient tree knowledge is in your mouth.
I can definitely dig that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want to do another song? I want to leave it up to you. I kind of want to hear Fractal Broccoli.
Oh yeah,
I
no
missed
problem.
it.
I can do Fractal
I
Broccoli.
kind of want to hear it because I heard it was awesome. That was like one song I feel like I missed.
Now, for the people out there, this song is going to be in a kind of similar rhythm to the first song I played, so I just hope that they understand that I have songs in more other rhythms. Like, I have songs that go like this. Chisbuhanes, Mixamanes, Ingastinga, Biniga, Blanes, Orpha, Torfa, Insomorpha, Inagreeniga, Bexula, Jimsolympho, Insabinfo, Hermina, Binibits, and Info, Ingerdurga, Pickney, Burnga, Ranka, Ribbon, Napsulax, Vanilda, Nick, Bananagon, Infotimfo, Mazaron, Platini, Dope, Vanilla, Nick, Bathisteron, Impy, Pluppa, Pluppy, Bay. Ranga, Nipto, Nanga, Hurst, Nepti, Pepti, Benga, Blumti, Dupti, Umsalanti, Arthur, you're like to me, Pentagrinti, Umtinenti, Pentawiggle, and Intiminti, Juxapoxulus, to nuts, Queen, the Rocket, begin to lean, Vanilla, Nick, Banana, gone, and Patimpo, of Mazaron, Bladini, Dope, Vanilla, Nick, Bathisteron, and Pipumpo, Pluppy, Bay. Stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, I'll play Fractal Broccoli.
Well, you don't have to.
No, that's all good. I like Fractal Broccoli. It was one of the ones that I was thinking about playing because I don't really have to sing very much. I just get to like do the barking, you know, which I like. Oh, Fractal Broccoli, how's it go?
Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli.
Geometric, psychedelic, spiritual, vegetable, mathematic, charismatic, cruciferous,
And delicious. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli.
algebraic, Aramaic, kind of naughty, Mandelbrati, underrated, nicely weighted, lightning powered, cauliflower. No, eating it fried with cauliflower on the side instead of meat. Goddamn, that's good. I'm never gonna eat another piece of flesh in my life. I'd rather eat wood. And one time I actually did eat wood. I went out into the woods where a beaver had been. I went up to a tree that the beaver had eaten, and I put my mouth on it and it tasted so good. I ate wood. I ate wood. I ate wood, I ate wood, I ate wood, I ate wood, I ate wood.
Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli. Fractal Broccoli.
Nice. Dude, that's inspiring. I like literally I want to go out and find a beaver chew tree and put my mouth on it now.
Dude, it's so good because they know how to find like the best tasting wood. You know what I mean?
Totally. I'm like not even joking. You're absolutely correct. That's good. That's something to do. I know there's a lot of.
It's like
beaver
I
tree
think it's
trees.
called the cambium or something. Like the soft white inner part of the tree is like really kind. It's kind of delicious. I mean, I don't know about recommending swallowing it or anything, but it's like, it's just a lot better than you'd think wood would be. You know?
Yeah, and actually, I collect. When I was a little kid, I said my name is Stick. That's what I would only respond to for a very long time.
Very cool.
And
Stick.
I love sticks. So like my front porch is still filled with like all these sticks that I collected as a child, and a lot of them were ones that were cut down by beavers. And oh, you're gonna come over there? I'll show you some of my sticks.
Nice. Yeah, you actually got beaver sticks.
Oh, totally beaver
That's
sticks.
right. I heard
love
the
it.
coolest stuff about beavers that when they make those lodges that they have, you know, the beaver dams,
Yep.
or like their little house, it's really nice and dry in there, and the only entrance is from under in the water.
Underneath, yeah.
And they let wood rats live in there or some other animal they let live in there, but they charge them rent. And that they have to bring them more sticks and like do a little bit of work in the house. It's like pretty cool that the beavers charge rent to the other animals.
I did not know that about beavers. And yeah, growing up, I mean, we got a lot of beavers around here. And I was always stoked because you'd be out in the canoe and you'd always see the beavers and you try to get up on them close. And then when you get up on a beaver, when they notice you're there, they slap their tail super loud on the water to like tell the other beavers.
Oh.
You know, and we're not, not threatening, but to them, they don't know. We're rolling up on a canoe.
Yeah,
Or,
for
we're
sure.
coming in. But I used to love, but then, as I get older and I have friends that own property and stuff, to them, they're like these massive nuisance because they dam up rivers that shouldn't be dammed and people have to go blow up the dams sometimes and they will immediately start building it again.
Wow.
That's why I'm busy as a beaver.
That's
Because
cool.
it's like you take away what they've done, they're like, no, sorry, bro, I'm coming right back at you.
Yeah.
Just keep building it as long as they're around.
That's nice stuff.
And they were actually having that problem in California with beavers. I was reading they were damming up. I forgot what river it was, but they were continually damming it up. But a lot of people would go out and kill these beavers, and there's a group that was like relocating beavers essentially.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to kill them.
Of course.
But people that own the property is just like the easy fix is to just kill them, which is a total bummer. They're pretty cool animals.
Yeah, and the second largest mammal, I think,
Oh, really?
behind capybaras. And third is the porcupine.
We got a lot of those around here too.
That's cool.
I almost hit a porcupine. I realized I was driving in the dark and I was like, oh my God, what was that? Next day I went out in my tire. I have a picture of it. There's like 10 quills
Oh, whoa.
like in my tire. Like
Like
I
it
mu-
shot the quills at you?
Yeah, like I must have just grazed it, like thankfully, because I didn't hit it. I didn't run it over.
Oh, yeah.
But I got so close to it.
Whoa.
Like I think an inch more and it would
So
have
do
been
they
bad.
do that as a defense? They just shoot
Yeah.
their quills out?
Well, they can't shoot quills. That's the thing.
Oh.
It's like you can get right up to a porcupine, and they can't like project the quills. But as soon as you get close enough to touch, that's when they're very short. They
Whoa.
can't like fire quills out.
Okay.
That's what people think. They think they're around. They got to run from a porcupine, but that's how they do it. So it was like my tire must have just grazed it, and so he just like shot out like 10 quills, and they were in there, man. I had to like pull them out. Like they were.
Hot damn.
They're
But you
in.
didn't get a flat.
No, it didn't go in that deep.
That would be funny.
Well, yeah, probably not at the time. I was also really impressed last night with like the different styles that you seem to, even vocally, like even in the last song, there was like almost like there was like a little country in the voice, and you did that song Oklahoma, something about a song that you said, I forgot what it was. You said you were scared about going to
Oh,
Oklahoma.
Future Clouds. Oh, you mean the fiddly one?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's like you clearly have an understanding of like so many, your own style and all these other styles you bring together for certain songs that make sense within that, idea. And I enjoyed listening to that. It's just
Thor
like,
Knocks. I have been through a lot of different styles of music, and of course I did spend many years touring around in the folk and bluegrass type of scene. That was my first notoriety, I guess, was for being like the bluegrass cello player
oh, cool.
or something. And so people thought that was cool because, the fiddle is so prevalent in all folk music and the cello is so underrepresented.
Uh-huh.
But that's because there hasn't really been a style. Like most people, when they play the cello and that kind of music, they still take the classical aesthetic into it, and it doesn't really jive with the music. You know, a lot of vibrato in this too. Like, here's how a classical person would play Old Joe Clark. They'd play it like, everything's like real literal. They'd be like, and somebody, you know, after, you know, being immersed in the music, play more like, you know, and it has a lot more subtleties, which is a thing that people overlook when they're thinking about playing that kind of music. Like, classical people will be like, oh, that kind of music is simple and basic, and they don't understand that it's really not. It's just a different type of complex.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting, especially in the bluegrass world, something that I've actually discussed with a few people on the show. Eric, who owned the bar that you played in last night.
Yeah.
Eric and Kiki. Mm-hmm. Eric's in an awesome band called the Blind Owl Band.
Okay.
And I discussed that with him because the makeup of their band, he plays mandolin, stand-up bass, acoustic guitar, banjo. So people are like, oh, bluegrass. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely, they say they only have like one bluegrass cover that they do. You know, they classify their music as, what is it, Adirondack Freight Train string music, which is a perfect description, I feel, of their music. Yeah. But the thing is from an outside perspective, people that don't know, they're like, oh, it's bluegrassy.
Well,
everybody uses that word.
It's a loaded word, and also a really easy one for people to just drop these days without really knowing what it means. You know, I mean, to some people, anything with a mandolin or a fiddle in it is by default bluegrass.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, I've been around the scene, and I've played with people that play old-time music and Celtic music, and then the real bluegrass people that actually are bluegrass players, like from the area where bluegrass is from and stuff. Anyways, that was one of the reasons that I kind of moved away from doing that full-time, is because, like, I'd meet people, and they're like, oh, what type of music do you play? And I'm like, bluegrass or, like, Appalachian folk music or whatever. And then I was like, wait a second. I'm from California. I'm a lot weirder than that. You know, there's other people that can fill the role of upholding the tradition nicely of that style of music. So I don't really have to do that anymore. I want to uphold my own traditions and invent new ones. That's for me, you know, personally.
Absolutely. And I think that I think that's a huge reason why people probably dig what you're doing. It's refreshing. I mean, for me, I thought it was great. I loved it. Thanks. I love what you're doing, and I hope that you continue to do it, and I think that you will, because this is clearly your path, and you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Oh yeah, I want to never quit.
Yeah, you can't quit.
I like,
the world needs you, bro.
When I'm 90 or 100,
sure.
Who knows? You know.
Yeah.
I feel like I could probably still play then, and I'll have had that many more years on the cello. I'll be able to do way cooler stuff. You know.
And the other thing that I really enjoyed about your playing, like, the looping pedal. The looping pedal, for me personally, it drives me crazy. I feel like there's a lot of solo musicians out there that just way overdo the looping pedal.
Oh yeah.
And it becomes almost not even secondary, sometimes a primary instrument in what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And some people do a really good job at it, and they're very and to be able to do that, you didn't even use the looping pedal for like the first set. I don't think you used it at all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like 10, 15, 20 minutes into the second set that I even realized you had a looping pedal. And it was so, thank you. Thank you. You know, because it's showing what you can really do on the instrument. And it's like, I want to see that. And then when you use the looping pedal, it makes sense and why you're using it. And then when you took that break and you played guitar, and that was because you kind of touched on it earlier, you were like, you did so many loops on the guitar. You're like, it's nice. We're going to take a break from cello. So when we come back, it's a little fresher. And if you're not going to like some of the loops, just concentrate on a loop that you actually do like.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was brilliant, man. It was
exactly.
Like, you're not going to like this. It's going to be a lot of noise. But just pay attention. There's something in there that you will like if you listen really hard.
Yeah, no, I was always shying away from the loop pedal for years because I didn't really like the aesthetic of it.
Yeah.
But then I realized that it could just be kind of another door, another magical little world to go into during the show. And it didn't have to like change my whole normal vibe, which is pretty loose and like rough around the edges and spontaneous. And I feel like you can use a loop pedal like that, especially if you just like kind of let people know that it's going to be like you're just messing around, improvising, whatever, you know, as opposed to like having a whole song worked out where you hit the loop pedal on the sly when people aren't expecting it, and then bam, you got this, and then you're right away layering something else, and then you change it, you go to the B part, and you got this other loop, and you got some pre-recorded tracks. I'm not into that pre-recorded stuff or even the pre-planned stuff. It's kind of nice to just, at some point in the show, because it's a solo show, it helps to vary it up somehow.
Yeah,
it's nice
absolutely.
to take a break with the guitar or take a break sonically from just the cello and the vocal and the kazoo all the time, so you can at least get a layer. And sometimes, you know, yeah, it's fun to see if you can to improvise a melody over some chords that you just laid down and then put a harmony on it right afterwards. It's a different level of musical intrigue, I feel like, for the people to digest.
100%. I absolutely agree. And you're right, because it's a solo show, and you know, it takes a break from what you're doing, just like you use the guitar to do the same thing, and it's a break for you too. I feel, but it was incredibly sparingly, and I thought it was great. Like I said, you didn't even use it I didn't even know you were going to use it, and you didn't use it that much, and I feel like it can be so overused. But at the same time, I have friends who that's what they do. They immediately they're a solo show, and they use that loop pedal, and that's their thing, and that's great too.
Yeah, they're
where
a
it's
looper.
like they within a minute they have layered bass guitar, trumpet, horns, and they made this band around what they're doing, and that's their thing, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I think
New frontiers in modern music.
yeah, and I remember like the first time anybody saw that, you know, Keller Williams is great at doing it. I don't know if you know who Keller is.
I think so, yeah.
I believe he's out in California too. I'm hoping to have him on the show here soon. And there's a lot of other folks out there that just are incredibly good at it. But speaking of, do you ever play with a band? Do you have a band that you play with? Have you ever had a band?
Yeah, I've had a few bands. My solo bands that I've been the leader, you know, where the band plays my music, are there was the Wild Band of Snee, and it had like keyboard, piano or synth, bass and drums, and a vocalist and me, and that was the Wild Band of Snee. And then I had the Butt Wizards, that was just me and drums and a synth, and then that became Tornado Rider eventually, and Tornado Rider is bass and drums and me, and that's like a power trio, and it's kind of like a really loud, wild party band. It like takes like a lot of core energy to even get enough juice to put on a Tornado Rider show. But we toured exclusively for 5 years. That was before I ever was into playing solo. From 2008 till 2013, it was all Tornado Rider, and we went around on the rock circuit, you know, playing in bars and clubs and festivals, and just living the wild rock and roll life. And
Was it? I'll have to check it out. I'll definitely check it out. But was it a little more mainstream, or were you still singing about the same things that you wanted to write about? That you are now, I should say. That I know.
I think there was less nonsense, because for some reason it's like it was like our main staple was like power songs, like our hit songs were like, oh my God, it's a dinosaur, I'm a falcon, welcome to the land of sawed off heads, the goat god, evil mouse lord, you know, like kind of like large mythical, it was like mythical animals and stuff like that. So kind of the same. But we recently we got back together and did a lot of practicing, and I taught them, like Fractal Broccoli made a really good Tornado Rider song.
Oh, right.
It was kind of trying to be a metal band anyhow before. So now that I got all these new bowing techniques, and I'm trying to get the drummer up to speed on the double kick, because he's had a double kick for a long time. And so we'll see where that goes.
I could only imagine the double kick with. I mean, you are the bouncing, the triplets. You're so fast. Like, well, we did some quick math last night,
Oh, yeah.
where it was like in like how many minutes? It was how many notes per minute?
2,600 notes, I think.
2,600 notes you played in. I forgot. Was it 3 minutes?
3
5 minutes?
I
3?
don't know if it was. It might have been 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was 5 minutes.
And you have somebody in the audience timing, giving you time checks. 1 minute, 2 minute.
Yeah, I've started doing that on this tour. It's really fun to do to just to take an audience of random people that's expecting to see songs and take them to this way dorky like technical level, but because you make somebody time it, it brings it like it kind of involves them somehow.
100%.
So it makes it entertaining, I guess. And then it just frees me up to just like do what I like to do, which is just play a bunch of notes and take a little journey through some chords or whatever, wherever it goes.
I mean, to folks that haven't seen you play, I mean, definitely they got to find you on YouTube and stuff. But I mean, you climbed over the seats. You were standing on a chair and played a lot of songs standing on a chair. You played under your leg. You played on your back, on your butt.
In plow pose.
Plow pose. You went up the stairs and everybody thought you were gonna like jump down from the balcony. It's a physical show too, man. Like, I mean, do you ever overdo it? Do you ever hurt yourself?
No, not on stage.
Like last night, I think you like did something to your finger or something there.
Oh no, I think what happened is I broke a string.
Well, you
by
did. That was the
jumping into
first
the
set.
wall.
It was the
No,
second
I think
set.
my
something
finger was.
happened.
I think my finger was okay. I generally stay within my comfort zone on stage and like, just kind of flow into.
So are you
certain
saying
things.
off stage you're more likely to hurt yourself? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe a little bit. I'm not very prone to injury, I like to climb trees a lot, and I did fall out of a tree this winter because I was trying to transfer from one tree to another, and a branch broke. But I learned my lesson, and I've climbed many trees since then, and it's all good. But, like, for example, both my brothers ride motorcycles, and I don't, just because, like, I don't know, I'm not ready to cross that threshold of potential injury to my arms. Because I just like
That's what you do.
I would be so bummed if I couldn't play the cello for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's my keyboard player is an incredibly gifted piano player. He works on a farm, and he digs into the earth, but he's also doing a lot of things with machinery, and he has hurt himself and he's scared the hell out of everybody in his life.
Oh yeah,
because he's so gifted. It's
Yeah.
like, man, it's like, can you get a desk job? He's like never gonna get a desk job. He's doing what he loves, but. Yeah, it's dangerous when that's how you make a living and that's the things that you love.
yeah. I'm hoping to get a little bit more into the physical aspects of the show and the potentials because it really goes a long way. Like I said, with a solo show, anything different than you can do. Like I feel like doing tricks carries a lot of currency in a long solo show where there's a lot of cello and a lot of notes and a lot of words. You can do some tricks and some physically entertaining things, especially when I play in different countries and they don't understand English. It really helps. So what I want to do is learn how to walk on a slack line or a tightrope with the cello, and also to get some like swinging things. Or like a couple nights ago in Syracuse, like what I've done a few times and got kind of notorious in Tornado Rider for doing is like hanging upside down from like a tent pole or whatever. You go up there and then you hook your knees under the bar or like over the bar and hang like a bat upside down, and then you can play the cello. And I realized that I could, the other night in Syracuse, I realized that I could still do triplets while playing upside down. And that was a very satisfying realization.
That must have been exciting.
Yeah. So I think there's really somewhere to go with that, in infinity in all directions, in terms of the physical aspects of the show, in terms of the lyrical aspects, and in terms of the rhythmical aspects and the technical playing aspects. It's just meant to keep evolving,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you have your intro song, what is it? Very wild.
Very nice, very wild, very fluffy, very Portuguese.
So my question is you do seem to be very nice,
Oh,
fluffy,
yes.
and wild.
Kind
I
of
would
wild,
say.
yeah.
So are you Portuguese?
Only in spirit, I think.
I'm so happy I asked that.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're clearly those things. And
Yeah.
it's like you had an entire crowd singing very Portuguese. And I'm like, is he Portuguese? I want to know.
No, sometimes I like to just celebrate separating a word from its normal use and context, and just like
clearly.
it's a cool word.
It is.
Portuguese. There's no words that quite sound like that.
And the language is amazing as well.
Yeah, then you get into Portugal and that whole thing, and there's a lot of stuff. I really hardly know anything about Portugal or Portuguese language. I just like the word Portuguese, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
It's
awesome.
like, and I think it's one of those countries that you can, like, I think if you said very Chinese or Japanese, like that would be offensive to some people for whatever social
I think
reasons.
you're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to be careful about that. But I feel like Portuguese is cool. Like when there's Portuguese people in the audience, they'll come up and say afterwards, they're like, "Oh, hey, I'm Portuguese. Thanks
Yeah.
for shouting us
My
out."
girlfriend's half Portuguese. She wasn't there
Oh.
last night, but she would have been stoked.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. That was my question. So, where are you going from here? Tell folks where you're going, future shows.
Well, my plan is I'm going over to play in Bangor, Maine tomorrow.
Bangor.
Yeah, and then I'm
up there?
playing. Then I'm playing in Rockland, Maine, and then Cape Elizabeth, Maine, and then I got to get my rental car Ford Explorer back to the Orlando airport in Florida. So I got to bust down there real quick in like 2 days,
Oh,
and gonna listen to a lot of death metal. But yeah, then I might buy an El Camino from this dude. This one of my biggest fans has a yellow El Camino, and it isn't the most rational decision, but it's yellow and it has like a camper shell on the back, and
Oh, man.
I feel like it's the poetic thing to do. And then I'm gonna drive it up to Atlanta, where I have a show, in Charlotte, and then Durham, and then maybe Nashville, and then over to Colorado for a little tour out there, and then drive to LA, and then back up to home, and just go practice for a couple months.
wow, rad.
winter.
About how many shows do you do a year? Do you know?
It's a good question. Probably somewhere between 100 and 150.
It's a lot of moving and grooving, man.
Yeah, a lot of moving and grooving. I would definitely do 200, 250 if somebody was booking them. It's just that
Yeah.
I don't really know. I would have to be a lot more on my booking game to get that
So
many
you do
shows.
all your own work as far as
yeah,
booking and whatnot.
pretty much.
Well, you also don't have to pay anybody for doing it. That's
My
nice.
my wife helps out and has historically.
You're married,
Yes, I am married.
and she ever come on the? Where is she?
She normally comes on the road, but this time she's in Washington taking care of her aunt, so
Oh, okay.
she's out there. So yeah, sometimes I go. When I go to Europe, sometimes I go by myself. It's interesting.
And so,
Very fluffy.
where can folks find you on the internet? Websites and all that jazz.
I think rushad.net is my website. It should still be working, and of course, my Instagram at Rushadicus, RUSHADICUS. That is.
You make it easy for people, huh?
Oh, yeah, RUSHADICUS, Rushadicus.
Rushadicus.
My Instagram, I post a lot of those 1 minute to 16th notes challenge videos where I do a lot of notes, and all my new bounce techniques get tried out on Instagram first, or my Facebook page, Rushad Eggleston. Although Facebook's kind of really started messing with the reach, like
Yep.
you'll make something awesome that really in the old days would have like gotten some popularity and people would have shared it, and then they just like totally
Unless
just
you
mute
unless you put money in it.
Yeah,
They don't
it's
wanna
kind of
let you
weird.
do it. Yeah, it's a bummer because it was a great spot, but that's what they knew is the plan all along. Give it to them, show them how awesome it is, and now you can have it if you pay $50.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
It's like
I feel like that's why Instagram is a little bit because they kind of like let you go a little further. You get a little more love. I don't know, but yeah, Facebook is a
Yeah.
little rough.
well, anyways. So yeah, those are the places to find me. Then
Awesome.
I also have my YouTube channel that I can't remember what it's called. I think if you look up Rushad Eggleston channel, it might be called Cello Bandit also.
Nice.
But
There may not be a lot of Rushad Egglestons out there,
there might not.
and I'm sure if there are, that they're not as rad as you are, bro.
Oh, thank you very much.
Absolutely. You want to play a song on the way out here?
Sure.
Call it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, okay, let's think what to play. Oh, we could do one of those challenges. That would be fun. I'll get my timer out. Let's see. If I can play one of those weird rhythms for a minute. Let's see. Very fluffy, very nice, very wild, very nice, very fluffy, very wild, very Portuguese, very nice, very wild, very fluffy. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna go for, let's see if I can do this cool for like 2 minutes. Okay, give me a starting chord.
F sharp.
F sharp and an ending chord.
G minor.
And one in the middle.
You call it.
So we're going from F sharp to C to G minor. Okay, when we hit 1 minute, I'll go to the C chord. Here we go. Wait, we're starting on F sharp. So 3, 4. Seconds late, but I hit the C. All right.
Awesome.
Almost 3 minutes.
Close enough. Rushad. Thor Knocks.
Oh, Thor Knocks, Lowell. Very fluffy. Very nice to be here and be asked the interesting questions.
Well, I tried. I mean, I'm sure I could have done better. But thank you for coming here on the Lowell Show, North
Very
Volume.
welcome.
And travel safe. It was great to meet you. I enjoyed the show last night. I enjoyed our time together today. Hope to see you in the future.
Let me give you the kazoo send-off.
Perfect.
This has been a North Volume Network podcast, the only podcast network in the North Country. Check out our full lineup on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or northvolume.com.